FEMC, FEMC, FEMC. What? No. Atlus announced the DLC for P3R, and fans of the series have mixed reactions surrounding it. On one hand, you have fans who are excited for the answer finally getting an HD remake. Then, on the other hand, people are upset that they have to pay extra for this, while also being disappointed about the other DLC content, with it being OSTs and costumes. But there's another crowd who are massively upset with this announcement, because it now confirms that FEMC isn't coming to Persona 3 Reload. For those who don't know, FEMC is the female protagonist equivalent of Makoto. She was introduced in Persona 3 Portable and has the canon name Kotone. Now, why are fans so enraged about FEMC not being included in P3R? Simply because there were hopes that Persona 3 Reload would be the most definitive version of Persona 3, meaning that all of its former versions such as Vanilla Persona 3, FES, and Portable's content would be included in Reload. Thus, a lot of fans expected that Kotone and her side of the story would be in P3R. But of course, Reload being the most definitive version of Persona 3 was never confirmed by any of the developers in Atlus, and once they announced the Answer DLC, FEMC fans felt betrayed. However, there's a logical reason as to why Atlus was not able to include FEMC for P3R. Before that though, please like this video if you really think that Kotone should have been added in P3R. And please join Otaku Define if you enjoy contents about anime and JRPGs. The most simple explanation as to why Kotone and her P3P content weren't added is because of time and money. An open secret about Atlus as a company is that they are infamous for mismanaging money, and that incompetency almost led them to bankruptcy twice. Heck, if it were not for Persona 3 back in 2006, then we would not be even talking about Atlus. But that wasn't Atlus's only sign of financial trouble. Back in 2013, a company called Index Corporation, the parent company of Atlus at that time, filed for bankruptcy because it got into financial trouble. This happened because Index was caught for fraud. Essentially, Index was pretending they were making more money than they actually were, which is called inflating sales figures. Index was also doing other tricky things with their finances that weren't honest. These actions got Index into trouble with their creditors, and they couldn't pay their bills anymore. And most of those payments were actually paid by the money that Atlus generated from their Persona games, mainly Persona 4 Golden. So Index had to file for bankruptcy protection. Thankfully though, in 2013, Sega acquired Atlus. But even though Atlus now has a better parent company in November 2013, they are actually still not making any profit by then. In fact, from 2010 to 2021, Atlus reported a loss in every fiscal year. Just to give some numbers, in 2017, they had a net loss of 570 million yen. In 2018, they lost 686 million yen. In 2019, 904 million yen, gone. In 2020, they experienced a 423 million yen net loss. And in 2021, well, it was their lowest loss of around 280 million yen. It was only in 2022's fiscal year that Atlus finally earned a profit in over a decade. It sounds crazy knowing that their Persona games are so popular, but it also explains why they have one of the dumbest DLC practices, especially the re-releases like Persona 5 in 2016, then Persona 5 Royal in 2019. Now, this is not to make you feel bad about Atlus and make you buy the Answer DLC on Persona 3 Reload. All I'm doing is explaining Atlus's reasons as to why FEMC wasn't in P3R. They just couldn't afford it. Additionally, Atlus even announced that they will increase their already above average salary by 15% to counter the massive inflation in Japan for the sake of their employees, right? But you might suggest, if Atlus needed more money, why not just make FEMC another expansion pass? That sounds like a brilliant idea and I'm all for it. But another thing that's holding Atlus down to make FEMC a reality is time. According to Midori, our famous and lovable Atlus leaker, like for real, go follow them on X Twitter, they said that Sega gave Atlus a strict development time to follow. The worldwide release of P3R takes too much time when compared to the time Sega gave for the development, localization, and marketing. P3R was completed in 2022, but localization was completed in 2023. So do we blame Sega for the FEMC erasure? Again, Sega is a much better parent company than Index. Ever since acquiring Atlus in 2013, they knew Atlus hadn't been earning a profit. That's why Sega directed them to go multi-platform, and that's what exactly pushed Atlus to finally turn a profit. Sega carefully planned for this release. But then, Sega also has fault for the questionable DLC practices that Atlus games now have. As stated by Midori, it is not a scheme by Atlus or Wada-san, Chief Director of Persona Team, because Atlus is working on multiple titles, and that is very much true, with a small shared development team, but it is also a Sega initiative to release DLC and DLC expansions. That's very true right now, okay? I mean, just look at the DLC for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I even made a whole video about it where the new Game Plus mode is locked behind a paywall. So, should we rally against Sega? Well, you could always vote with your wallets. The questionable DLC practices for video games have always been around ever since that stupid horse. The cost for developing games has been increasing exponentially. Even Wada-san and the Persona team was surprised with the budget that they got for developing Persona 3 Reload. This also explains why a lot of video game companies keep pushing for gas or live service games. Heck, even Harada-san, the director of the Tekken series, has a long tweet about it. I'm not trying to justify the actions of these game developers, I'm just delivering the message as to why all of these questionable DLC practices are happening. There are even worse companies out there that are outright scamming their fanbase, but there are also developers who are nice enough that they give out new content for free. In the end, these are the products that are put on the shelves, and whether we buy it or not will also affect how they change in shelving what should be a DLC and what should be put in the main game. So what does the future hold for P3R? Would we ever see FEMC? Is the answer the last DLC that we should expect for P3R? Well, Atlus is very much focused on their future projects. Just this Friday, they released VanillaWare's latest game, Unicorn Overlord. Atlus also have other projects releasing this year, such as SMT5 Vengeance and a new major IP by the creators of Persona 5, Metaphor ReFantazio. Then we have the leaks by Midori that Atlus plans on releasing Persona 6 and then Persona remakes. So looking at the timeline, it might seem nigh impossible to even have FEMC a possibility. Of course, this doesn't mean that the door for Persona 3 Reload with Kotone is fully closed. They could still do it knowing the quick success of P3R, selling millions of copies in just a short span, right? Now, in the meantime, I'm just happy that Atlus is still around despite their bumpy journey for over a decade. And I really enjoy their games, especially their new game, Unicorn Overlord. I can't put this game down, like seriously. If you're curious as to what kind of game this is, then check this video out. Like and subscribe to Otaku Defined if you think FEMC should be added. This is Math, and stay awesome my dudes.